encourage you to watch this documentary. The reason being that the issues we are looking at are very important. Environment and forests are critical for our development in different ways. And Mother Earth actually is at a crossroad whereby as human beings we are sort of destroyed the things that support us to live. The forests that give us the rain that we actually use to irrigate the crops or to grow our food, the rain that are where we get drinking water and for survival generally, and all the other things which are necessary for our survival on Earth.
Kibale district, located in southwestern Uganda. Kibale was once a lush tropical paradise covered by pristine, untouched natural forests. But encroachers are pushing from every direction. Commercial interests are indiscriminately cutting down the forests for timber, fuel wood, and poles. Immigrants are clearing the forest reserves to set up subsistence farming activities. Conflicting policy directives and weak enforcement of regulations, coupled with unending court cases, have created paralysis in managing the reserves. How long can this be sustained before the 16 central forest reserves in Kibale district are completely wiped out? Over 20 years ago, Kibale district was once the most densely forested district in Uganda.
From the 60s, the environment was good because it was cool. The mornings were cool and the afternoons were also cool. You could hear birds singing here and there. Bush animals, bushbacks were there, pigs were there.
These central forest reserves fall under the National Forestry Authority's mandate to manage 1.2 million hectares of forest land in Uganda. The central forest reserves have an important function. They provide forest products like timber and poles. They also protect riverbanks, lake shores, water catchments, and steep slopes. Indeed, Uganda's aquatic life, like fish and maintaining their breeding grounds, are directly dependent on forests, which help to revitalize and sustain local rivers like the Kazizi and Ruzaire in Kibale district. Another role is to conserve Uganda's biodiversity and to mitigate the effects of climate change. The Kagadi sector was also once an important corridor for elephants and chimpanzees migrating between the Kibale National Park and the Makishon Falls and Semleki National Parks. But unrelenting human encroachment and destruction has seen the area they once covered greatly reduced. Conflicting government policies on central forest reserves, equivocating court decisions, impunity, population pressure, and weak enforcement of laws have greatly played their part. As the result today, there is no central forest reserve in Kibale district that has not had its trees pillaged by encroachers and the land on which they once stood turned bare. In 1990, the total land area of Kibale district covered by forests constituted 46%, totaling to 187,000 hectares. But by 2005, 43% of this forest cover had been destroyed and reduced to just above 106,000 hectares. Encroachment still continues unabated. Indeed, currently virtually all these forest reserves are being encroached, with some on the verge of being wiped out completely if nothing is done to stem the tide. These central forest reserves at Guramwa, Ruzaire, Kanaga, Nyabiku and Kagadi have been completely laid bare and transformed into farmlands and settlements.
And as we go deep inside, you will see that they have demarcated it, even the remaining forest. They have put demarcations. They are ready to destroy it this season.
This threat to Kibale's forests continues despite the creation of the National Forestry Authority and the legislation of robust laws to protect the country's natural resources. Deforestation in Kibale district is very high. It is driven by the huge number of immigrants pouring into the district in search of virgin land to till. Powerful people who are well connected economically and politically have continued to protect this illegality for both political and economic gain. Not only that, they are alleged to own huge parcels of land illegally in the Central Forest Reserves that they hire out to subsistence farmers for an annual fee.
I have got the names of the landlords here, and I'm going to lodge a case against them at police. They claim they are landlords. That's why they are collecting some fee from the cultivators.
But there are two main direct threats and causes of the high rate of deforestation in the district. The destruction of forests to clear the way for subsistence farming, and the illegal extraction of wood, that is, sawing of trees for timber and poles from the forests. Underlying causes also exist that have allowed the encroachment and destruction of Kibale's forests to happen. There is policy and institutional failure. While strong laws and institutions exist to deal with the problem, there is lack of will to implement their mandate. But the more serious underlying cause is the relentless pressure from immigrants. Escaping from densely populated areas of Kigezi and across the border in Rwanda in the quest of land for agriculture to settle in and till. Kagombe Central Forest Reserve. At 178 square kilometers, this is the largest Central Forest Reserve in Kibale district. It also symbolizes the imminent danger that forests in this district and in Uganda in general face. Today, less than 3,000 hectares are left for this once pristine tropical forest that once covered an area of 11,331 hectares. Over 70% of the forest has been taken over and mowed down by encroachers. The destruction of this forest in the face of robust laws to protect Uganda's natural resources also demonstrates the powerlessness of the people and national institutions mandated to safeguard them. Lack of clearly demarcated boundaries for the Central Forest Reserves in Kibale district is a major issue for both the National Forestry Authority and encroachers. This has hampered the efforts of the NFA to reclaim disappearing forest lands and to evict the encroachers. Encroachers have taken advantage of this to challenge the NFA whenever attempts are made to evict them from the Central Forest Reserves to stem further damage to the forests. Indeed, endless cases are before the courts, with emboldened encroachers and their elite backers contesting the NFA's ownership of the Central Forest Reserves. Kagombe Central Forest Reserve has suffered as the result of a court decision. On February 2, 2013, the High Court issued an order that stopped the NFA from evicting encroachers of Kagombe Central Forest Reserve. The order followed an application for a temporary injunction by Celestino Twesige, also known as Jinusu, and 127 others who occupy the forest. While 128 people occupied the contested forest land before, today, Kagombe Forest Reserve has over 5,000 encroachers. At the time, the area that had been encroached and deforested was approximately 50%. But since then, and due to the complicated court decision, encroachment has now reached over 70%.
What is left intact is only 30%. In terms of area, intact forest is now something like 3,990. So the rest, out of 11,331, the rest is gone.
The level of devastation has been witnessed by the Independent Development Fund, which is supporting a media sensitization campaign against deforestation and devastation of the Central Forest Reserves. The IDF is concerned that this selfishness could finish off the forests for future generations to enjoy. This follows a tour of the Central Forest Reserves in Kibale district by the head of programs who witnessed firsthand the devastation.
Even if you've not gone to school really, you would appreciate the contribution of the forest because even when you're just walking through the forest, you feel this you feel this freshness that comes around. So only that is an effect that comes to you, and it's a reward in itself. But to take it further, the whole rainfall cycle formation, that's a bit scientific, but it's really important that we maintain and preserve this forest, the natural cover, so that we don't see a lot of destruction at the end of the day, and we don't see so that we maintain the kind of climate that we expect to have, to receive as it should be, not disrupted. But with this destruction, we are not sure what we are likely to see tomorrow if we don't save the situation today.
Charles Ariane is the manager for Kagadi sector, under which all the 16 central forest reserves in Kibale fall. All that Ariane and his supervisors and patrolmen can do is to patrol what remains of the forest and look on as the destruction continues. The High Court order stopped the eviction by the NFA, but it allowed the encroachers to continue tilling the parts of the forests they had opened up before the case. The encroachers have taken advantage of this to continue the destruction and to cut down the trees and open up land for new gardens in violation of the court order. This is because the court order was one-sided. It stopped the NFA activities and allowed that of the encroachers to continue.
Court injunction says the boundary lines must be opened, then after that the encroachers can now leave. But where I see there's loophole is in passing this court injunction, somebody even 5-10 kilometers inside the reserve also complains of boundary being unclear. This clearance here is not only along the boundary, it goes up to Muzizi River.
And the destruction has continued, even of what little remains of Kagombe Central Forest Reserves. The encroachment of Kagombe, like all other forest reserves in Kibale district, is mostly by migrants from southwestern Uganda and Rwanda, although there are also a sprinkling from other parts of the country. Their arrival into the district is facilitated and encouraged by well-connected people led by Celestino Twesige, also known as Chinusu, who owns chunks of land in Kagombe Forest Reserve and resides in Bujogoro. He is a powerful businessman who has sponsored court challenges to the NFA. They also claim it is these powerful people who encouraged them to migrate to Kibale district after paying a fee to pave their way. Powerful people like Chinusu are at the forefront of challenging NFA decisions and actions whenever it attempts to protect the forests. These people have even gone further by issuing encroachers with fake papers they purport as land titles to stake a claim to the forest lands that they occupy.
You people who have sued the NFA, this is your certificate of recognition. This is not for buying land. Those of you who have been contributing money to Kinusu, he has thanked you for supporting the case against NFA about this forest reserve, Kagombe. And he is saying this case is not yet finished. It is still going on. So he needs more money from you to pursue this case up to the end. So harvest your maize and contribute for this case.
A crucial factor that is allowing this impunity to continue in Kagombe is the lack of clear boundaries to demarcate what is forest land and what is private land. What is amazing is that some local NFA staff who should know better are not sure of the boundary lines either. This is a fact taken advantage of by encroachers challenging them on the boundary lines if they are to vacate. In response to the High Court order, the National Forestry Authority contracted WEMNET surveys, mapping and planners to demarcate the disputed 130-kilometer Kagombe forest boundary and 25 kilometers in Kasato Central Forest Reserve. Worth 2 billion shillings, the work was meant to have been completed in 3 months, starting in July to September 2014. But the work stalled after only 15 kilometers had been covered. It emerged there were mistakes in the coordinates that the company was using to carry out the work. When the mistake was rectified, only 3 kilometers had been properly opened up before the work stopped again for unknown reasons. The National Forestry Authority also seems not to take the need to demarcate its forest boundaries as a matter of urgency. It has made no effort to follow up the issue of mapping the Central Forest Reserve boundaries in Kibale district in order to halt the endless encroachment. For instance, by August 2015, the NFA Kagadi Sector Office had been operating without a running vehicle. This vehicle is important to transport the forest supervisors and patrolmen to police what remains of the forest reserves under their care. As the result, illegal occupation and destruction of the forests continues uninterrupted. For instance, Ruzaire's Central Forest Reserve should have been cleared of encroachers by the end of July 2015, but this has yet to take place. The decision to evacuate the forest was agreed by the local community themselves, who agreed to leave after harvesting their crop this year.
According to what we agreed last time, we came and had a meeting with NFA, with the community, and the office of the RDC was there, even the DPC was there. So when we held that meeting, we had to agree on some issues. We agreed on that after this season, because people had already planted, so we agreed that after this season, people will again may negotiate with NFA, see how it can replace our reserve or vacate.
The infrequent patrols of the Central Forest Reserve to see that it is evacuated have thus remained ineffective because there is no follow-up action. Indeed, some arrests and prosecution of people who refuse to leave take place now and then. However, it is often too little and too late to have a long-term impact that can preempt the others to leave.
They are sentenced to each 400,000 in default 2 years in prison.
Quite clearly, the causes and impunity leading to the encroachment and destruction of Kibale's forests are not being properly addressed. This, even if some efforts are being made by local NFA staff, communities, and some political leaders. The extraction of wood is one of the main causes for destruction of forests here. Trees are cut for their timber for commercial purposes. Timber is produced mainly by business people from outside Kibale district to supply the high demand that drives the trade. Usually, these people have NFA licenses to cut timber in specific areas. However, they end up cutting from unallocated areas and use the licenses to transport the illegal timber. Other uses leading to deforestation are poles for construction and fuel wood. With forests outside the central reserves virtually cleared off, forests like Kagombe are increasingly becoming a source of fuel wood, hence the growing threat to them. The quest for fuel wood is hand in hand with another illegal activity, charcoal burning, in order to provide alternative sources for domestic energy. Combined, all these activities are a major threat and reason for continued tree cutting, despite efforts to stem it. Together with wood extraction, expansion of land for agriculture and the quest of virgin lands for farming are also a leading cause for the destruction of forest reserves in Kibale district. Initially, migration from the heavily populated Kigezi region in the 1970s was due to a controlled official policy. But since the 1990s, there has been a wave of spontaneous, voluntary migrations of people coming from southwestern Uganda, Congo, and Rwanda. Due to cultural reasons, the only land available to them are forests because local people bar them from owning communal lands. Secondly, forests are seen as virgin fertile land and perceived as free land that can be grabbed. Because of the relentless onslaught, local people have also joined in to parcel out forest lands. This due to the fact that nothing has been done to stop the migrants from taking over, and also due to the worry that all the forests in Kibale district could end up being owned by foreigners. Aside from the direct threat to the forests stemming from human activity, Kagombe Central Forest Reserve, like all the other reserves in the districts, continues to suffer as the result of policy and institutional failures. Some of them are in form of chronic underfunding. The consequences are poorly paid staff and inadequate budgets to carry out their mandate. There is also inadequate manpower and resources to man the central forest reserves in the district effectively. Let alone the environment police who should enforce forestry regulations can't work effectively due to lack of allowances to go out in the field. This state of affairs has continued for the last 3 years. It goes without saying that corruption is a factor in all facets of Ugandan life. Thus, there is no exception that corruption has helped to abate illegalities in the management and protection of the Central Forest Reserves in Kibale district. This is mostly from conniving government officials and leaders who should be at the forefront of protecting and leading the conservation of Uganda's natural resources. Secondly, is the ambiguous relationship between the NFA and district forest services. In Kibale district, relations between the two are at an all-time low.
NFA is saying that this is not the first time you are interfering with their operations. Would you deny that allegation?
Can they mention any other?
Yes, they did.
There is nothing. Nothing, totally.
What's your relationship with them? How has been the working relationship?
Except me, I'm not happy with them. They are getting money for people who are working on their own land.
But as NFA, we don't have that habit of extorting money from people.
I'm not an expert, but at least on issues to do with NFA, to do with the district forest officer and impounding, there is always a conflict.
The mandate of the district forest services is to license the transportation of forest products. They are also legally obliged to cross-check the origin of these products. This helps to identify the tree species that was cut and the method applied in its harvest. But a recent case of seized timber showed that this procedure was not followed. These 2 trucks were recently impounded by eagle-eyed local NFA officials in Kagadi town as they ferried timber which was not properly documented. It was also suspected to have been harvested using proscribed means, power chainsaws. The clash that ensued demonstrates the conflict between the two. The acting district forestry officer claimed to have properly cleared the timber. The ban on chainsawn timber was first imposed in 1989. This circular, issued by the Ministry of Water and Environment in January 2009, reaffirmed that the ban had never been lifted. Ironically, Wilson Chamuhondire, the acting Kibale district forestry officer, separately issued a circular in September 2013, reminding timber traders that the ban on chainsawn timber was still on. Yet here he was, openly clearing in daylight impounded chainsawn timber to be reclaimed by the owners against the protestations of local NFA staff. But the local NFA staff said they impounded the vehicles for lack of a license to transport and harvest timber. In the end, the district forestry officer, the deputy RDC in charge of Kagadi, and police connived to release the impounded trucks, causing the loss of revenues that the NFA could have earned by penalizing the owners. But they retained the timber. Such loopholes demonstrate the battles that have to be fought in order to safeguard and protect what remains of the forests in the Kagadi sector.
Actually, it was in the morning when the OC station rang on me that the deputy RDC has ordered for the release of the vehicles. Then I had to also to move very fast, and I could not get them here. Now I will not talk to the OC station to see under which circumstance they cleared them.
I have not heard from NFA and DFO. What are they saying about the cars?
But anyway, so tell us, did they bring any timber here and impounded the vehicles? If so, under what circumstances?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. You ask NFA, ask DFO. They are the ones who deal in timbers.
Sir, it is not about dealing in timber. It was a police case. Our police case now. There are 2 cars supposed to be parked in the police.
But by now, I will not comment.
He said, these people are innocent, I cleared them. Did you find any instruction I gave to police?
That's why the police brought us here.
Where? Did you find any instruction?
That's why police brought us to your office.
No, I'm here.
The response and decision by local communities around Ruzaire Central Forest Reserve is just an example of how the dialogue approach is yielding results. Local NFA staff initially used force in a bid to protect the forests, but this wasn't working. Hence the option for dialogue with the help of WEMNET, an NGO set up by journalists to bring issues of the environment onto the national agenda and discourse. The deadline to leave was not set by the NFA. It was set by the locals themselves, a major departure from the past when it was the NFA setting the terms. It is also a reflection on how engaging the community in the importance of managing forests is a long and more sustainable solution. Besides the local communities in Kabamba sub-county where Ruzaire Central Forest Reserve is located, the councillors, resident district commissioner, the district police commander and the district internal security officer were part of the process that agreed the deadline to vacate the forest. The voluntary eviction from the forests have started with the worst affected forests. Forests which are 100% degraded. These are Ruzaire, Chijuna, Kanaga and Nyabiku. A concept where local communities participate in managing the forests is also taking root. This is the collaborative forestry management concept. The communities are seen as major stakeholders in the forest and take an active part in safeguarding them. But the NFA still remains the lead agent in replanting and reforesting degraded areas.
The business of planting trees is not theirs, it is ours. NFAs, they want to plant trees. If they want to plant trees, we have to get into CFM arrangement with them first.
In the case of 100% deforestation, the NFA has two options. One is to clear the forest reserves of human settlement to allow the original species to regenerate. The second is to undertake tree plantations where occupation was over a long period of years.
I know if we leave it for 1 year, some hard species like the commonest here is bleacher. Bleacher can begin coming up. But other valuable species, probably management plan for this reserve can be changed and we establish plantation.
The active involvement of local and national media in highlighting the threats and challenges of protecting and maintaining the central forest reserves in Kibale district is playing an important and critical role. The media has played a key role in sensitizing and providing the local communities platforms to engage with efforts to safeguard the country's natural forests. IDF provides grants for indigenous organizations engaged in human rights and good governance.
That's why we feel that forest governance as well as issues of human rights related to the forest are critical. You realize that there's a lot of research into medicine whereby the forests actually provide all these kind of ingredients. So if you're talking about future and development in the long term, there's no way we can actually say we deplete our forests and then we will have killed our future.
A successful outcome of the media's role was the sensitization that eventually led to the voluntary evacuation of Matiri Central Forest Reserve in Chenjeju district. Over 50% of this forest had been decimated by encroachment and illegal tree cutting. But thanks to these efforts, it is beginning to regenerate after it was vacated. Not forgetting the joint efforts to save the environment, Jesse, who re-energized NFA, making it possible for evictions to take place. The commitment of local NFA staff in the face of limited resources and budget inadequacies is also heartwarming as they battle to fulfill their mandate against all odds and amidst hostility. But a lot more will need to be done beyond wishful thinking. Equally true, the NFA will have to get to grips and fully embrace its mandate to protect and manage Uganda's natural forests. And the population will need to fully understand and appreciate that they are the main custodians and beneficiaries of Uganda's natural resources and forests. As a network of environment journalists, WEMNET Uganda is still committed to highlighting and exposing the rot in Uganda's forestry sector. WEMNET Uganda is keen to do this to ensure that the central forest reserves are protected and conserved for future generations to benefit from and enjoy.